Hello and welcome to the Business of Story. I'm your host, Park Howell, and today, like the show title says, you'll learn how to see more sales by revealing your storytelling blind spots. Known for her high-energy, passionate, heart-centered, and enthusiastic approach to sales, teaching, and coaching, Connie Whitman has been the CEO of Changing the Sales Game for 20-plus years. She helps banks and credit union leaders and sales teams build powerhouse organizations.
I believe that my way, your way, might not always resonate with people. Like they like one piece of what I said and one piece of what you said. And I'm okay with that, right? We're not cookie cutter. But if they could take that really good piece of advice from you and from me and from Joe Schmo, and they can make it theirs, now it's their authentic self that's comfortable, all of a sudden they're creating magic out there. So the 19 other authors, the core was, how and why is networking so important, and how can we translate that into career and business growth? And everybody came with their own stories, and it's beautiful because my hope is, as people read it, that they take a piece from everybody, implement it into their real world, and hopefully at the end the trajectory is more success, whether it be business or career.
Connie is a 4-time #1 international best-selling author, including her book ESP, Easy Sales Process, The 7 Steps to Sales Success. She's also a speaker and podcast host. Her inspired teaching, transformational tools, and content ensure that bankers, advisors, and salespeople alike grow their revenue streams through enhanced communication skills. She is thrilled to share inspiring content on her international podcasts, Changing the Sales Game and Enlightenment of Change. Please welcome to the Business of Story, Connie Whitman. Well, good morning, Connie, and welcome to the Business of Story.
Hey, Park, thanks for having me. I love talking to you, so I know we're going to create some magic today.
Well, you've been so kind to have me on your podcast a couple times now, and we've had so much fun. We are like brother and sister from a different mother, I think, is what it ultimately comes down to, right?
I think so, yes.
We even have the same space in our teeth.
Yes, we do. It's the
They call
mailman.
it a diaspis or something like that.
It's the mailman, Park.
It's the mailman. Well, I got to tell you, once I worked for a company called Quorum International, and it was a direct marketing company selling security products, first around North America, then they expanded around the world, and I was the creative director for them. And 2 brothers ran it, Raymond Hung and Vincent Hung, and they were from Hong Kong. They were an OEM manufacturer out in Hong Kong, and they came to America to sell their products. And I asked him, I go, what are you doing over here in Phoenix, when you could be doing this from China? And he says, Park, nobody can out-manufacture Chinese and nobody can out-market an American. So I said, okay, well, that makes sense. And then one day, Vincent came into my office and he sat down and he had this very serious look on his face. And I thought, Connie, I was getting fired. And he said, Park, they were really big on feng shui and the good dragon and the bad dragon. And he said I had to get my teeth fixed because I had such a prominent position in the company that space between my 2 front teeth allowed money to fly out of my mouth and out of the company. And in order to fend off the bad oral dragon, apparently, of feng shui, I was to fix my teeth. And as you can tell, I didn't do that.
Clearly not. That, I'll tell you, interesting story.
What are you going to do? Well, welcome, because today we are going to talk about, any of those folks out there listening who are in sales. And let's face it, Connie, we're all in sales, right? Yes. If we're going to try to get someone to buy our product or service, or our vision, our mission, our initiative, our way of thinking, feeling, doing, get our kids to buy into eating their peas, we are all in sales. And if we really tell that story right, then we can hook our audience very deeply and convert them into customers, lifelong customers. But so many of us miss that opportunity because we don't have our storytelling down. In fact, we have a lot of communication blind spots. So I am so happy to have you here today because that's exactly what we're going to cover.
Yes,
Is how do you reveal these communication storytelling blind spots so that you can see more sales?
Park, and this at the core to me is sales. If we're not communicating effectively, fill in the blank with whatever you're selling, right? You're there's the blind spot. So we don't always know what it is. But here's the reality. I created a communication model like a disc, a Myers-Briggs. They've been around for hundreds of years. Probably about 8 years ago, I created my own model. And through all of my research, being certified in different communication models, I feel this again, this is my opinion, that there's 5 key ways that humans communicate. So the good news is 20% of the time, or 2 out of 10 people we speak with, they get us. We don't have to say a lot, do a lot. There's just this connectivity at a really, really deep level, almost at a subconscious level. Well, fast forward, that means 80%, 4 other styles, 80% or 8 out of 10 people we're communicating that don't think like us, don't see from our perspective, aren't wired the way we're wired. So we're telling our story from our vantage point, and 8 out of 10 people are like, huh? What? They have to catch up to us because they don't understand the story, the rhythm, the path of what we're saying. So it's our responsibility to identify those blind spots so that no matter who's in front of me, that 8 out of 10 that don't communicate like me, that I understand that and I shift my story, I shift my messaging so they receive it. Because here's the reality, Park, right? Their reality, their perception is our reality. So you always want to make sure you're landing it exactly how they're receiving it.
Now, is it fair to say that you're kind of a no-nonsense Jersey gal?
Yes, that's true.
That's what I've always loved about talking with you is no BS, you pull no punches, and you get right down this idea that 80% of the time it sounds like we are communicating from our point of view, lost in our own world, thinking that our nasal gazing is going to make the deal, when what we have to do is really pay attention to our audience, understand who they are, what they want relative to our audience from their point of view, and why that's important to them, first and foremost. Otherwise, we're just out there wasting precious time and energy, I guess.
We're talking at each other instead of having these real deep rooted conversations. And the thing with story for me in my career, Park, and I know it's similar for you, a story when told correctly, when the concept is grounded, again, with the person in front of you, right? It's the right match. I don't sell to someone who doesn't need my services. I'm not going to waste anyone's time, right? And if they're not the right client, I don't want to work with them anyway because it's too much work then, right? It's not a right fit. But when you have that right person in front of you, if you ground it in that story, you can fast forward the conversation because the story, like the 3 little pigs, right? We all know the story of the 3 little pigs. So I could connect the wolf with the icky salespeople out there who just keep going and going and they won't take no for an answer, right? That's not who we want to be. You understand exactly what I'm saying just by referring the wolf to those icky salespeople out there. I fast forwarded the concept I'm trying to share. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And when in your coaching and so forth, again, I imagine you pull no punches. So when you are working with people and other sales teams, you're like, hey, wait a minute. This is not about you. This is about their audience, your audience, and what's in it for them. How did you get your start? What's your backstory, Connie?
So it's interesting. This is like a story I use frequently, but it's worth repeating. So after I graduated, I graduated the finance degree, got a job at a credit company. It was with car dealerships. So it was one of the car credit companies. I won't say which one, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, so we go through, and this is back in the 80s. I'm dating myself. But leasing was a new concept. Nobody knew what that was. But for business owners, it was the way to go because they can literally write off the entire car payment, not just a piece or the mileage, that the IRS allows. So I kept getting in these deals. I was responsible to grow this leasing department. I kept getting in these deals for retail, which were the purchase for business owners. So what did I do? I'm thinking, well, this is crazy. Pick up the phone, call the dealer, explain the situation. And you know what they said to me, Park? They were like, oh, yeah, we don't know about that leasing thing. We don't know how to do the calculation. So, path of least resistance, right? They did the retail deal. I said, all right, pull out your calculator. We didn't have computers back then. Pull out your calculator, write this down. I'm going to give you the steps. You're doing a disservice by not selling the right thing to the client. So, fast forward, I just kept doing this and doing this and doing this. Probably within about a quarter, maybe 3 months, we went from zero lease deals. I was getting at least maybe 200 a week, so several hundred a month. So a sales position comes up at this credit company. All these car deals, all these guys, they're calling me, Connie, you're going to apply. Connie, you're going to apply. This is my response, Park. I said to every one of them, are you people on drugs? I don't know the first thing about sales. Why is everybody telling me I should apply for this position? And they laughed and they said, do you realize how much commission we're making because of you? Do you know how many referrals that we've generated because of you? Business owners are bringing their peeps in saying, did you know you have to go talk to my guy, right? All of this went on, and the dealerships themselves were making bank because I taught them a calculation. In my mind, that's what I was doing. Really, really, I was teaching them the benefit to the client, how to articulate that, plus obviously the technical, which was actually do the calculation. First, and then do you want to hear the rest of the story, or you want to ask me a question?
Well, no, I definitely want to hear the rest of the story. What's interesting to me about that is you didn't approach it as a sales thing, did you? You approached it as, let me help you, and let me first help you understand how this is going to positively impact your business. I mean, forget the car, forget the make, forget the model, even forget the price tag. Let's talk about the numbers here and how it impacts your business from their point of view. And so you became a natural salesperson.
Unbeknownst to me. So that's the other thing too, I think, Park. For me, that intuitiveness, it wasn't intuitive, make the sale, make the money. That never even entered my mind. The intuitiveness is, well, wait a minute. If you tell the client a better opportunity or a better solution, why would they say no? And oh, by the way, you look like a god or a goddess because you've just helped them ultimately still get the car they were going to get, right? Whether it was retail or lease. So nothing changed there with the outcome of the purchase. What changed? We helped them with their cash flow. Now, again, I understood cash flow. I'm a finance person. So I'm thinking, well, now that business owner could spend more on marketing, or they could put more toward their retirement, or, fill in the blank. They could do something else with those funds. When you create that, I call it, my kids played hockey, Park. So I call it the hat trick. When you get those three wins, the win for the salesperson, the win for the client, and then the win for the organization, magic happens, right? But it starts with educating, understanding, and knowing who your client is and what the benefit is really to them.
Yeah. Isn't there so much laziness, I hate to say it, in the business world? And I say that with all due respect because we all go through it. Like,
Yeah.
we're under the gun to perform. We got to, make money. We got to do whatever we can do. So we want to cut corners, least route of resistance. And so often that is just talking about us and our offering and what's happening versus taking the time, burning the calories, burning the energy to go and truly understand what's at stake for your audience and how you can help them overcome that. Is there an easy way to overcome that? And then I want to get back to the rest of your story. Is there an easy way to sales that does enable you to put your audience at the center of that story?
For me, one of my favorite quotes is Stephen Covey's, his fifth habit, right? You have to seek to understand before being understood. And I think that, to me, if I had to give what's the secret or the magic wand here, it's listening. It's being present and really listening to what the other human is saying to you. It doesn't matter the situation, whether it's your kids, doesn't matter. What are they really saying? People want to be heard. And here's the irony. Once you hear them and fully understand them, your solution becomes bigger and better. So not only are you making more money and helping them to a larger scale, right? You're making more money because instead of selling one product, maybe you're selling a package of three. I don't know. But then the other piece of it, now you've established yourself as a true what I call a planning partner. So next time they have an event in their life related to something that your zone of genius is, who are they going to call? And I tease, they're not going to call the Ghostbusters. They're going to call you because you've proven over and over again that you listen, you hear, you understand before you open your mouth with a recommendation. So I think we take turns talking at each other, Park, instead of using Covey's, fifth habit, which is we have to listen. We have to be present. We have to stop. And in my world, I call it the 70-30 rule. 70% of the time, we should actually be listening. 30% is you asking questions plus sharing what you think a good, reasonable solution would be to help that person with their problem situation and what have you. 70-30 rule works.
Well, in the consulting world, which so much, really sales is all about, especially in the B2B world, is consultative sales. People pay you for what goes on between your ears. So you need to use them, right? So let's say blind spot number one is be present and listen. Listen. Let's go back to your story. So what happened next?
So I went to after all these guys are saying this to me, I'm thinking, I don't know, let me go talk to the boss, right? I'm not shy. So I thought, I'll ask him, what's the worst that can happen? He says, no, right? Big deal. I still have a job. I still like what I do. So I went, and his name is Don Hill. I don't know if he's still alive or not, but it's a good story. So I go to him and I say to him, I think I'm good at the sales thing. I'd really like to throw my hat in the ring for the sales position. And he responded, don't do it. And I said, why? He said, corporate is not going to allow me to promote you. And I said, why not? And he says, because you're a girl, you're a woman, and it's a man's industry. So that was back in the 80s. Okay. So I was deflated. I thought, I never heard this before. I'm a girl, so I can't get promoted. What are you talking about? And then he said to me, and this is the cool thing about him. He had a younger daughter, I think, who was vivacious like me. She had good energy. And he said to me, you've outgrown us already, which struck me. I was there maybe a year or two, and that struck me so funny, Park. He saw something in me that as a kid, I didn't even realize. So that icky story, right? If I'm a girl, they wouldn't promote me, really became the catalyst for me to enter financial sales, which is really where I belonged, helping people one-on-one. I had such a good degree. I had my degree and my MBA in finance. I literally would teach people about cash flow before helping them get an investment or insurance or whatever asset protection they were looking for. For me, it's always about education.
And thinking in your world, in the car business world and the financial world, that intersection there, pardon that particular pun. Let me tell you quickly about Andre Martin Hobbs. He's a phenomenal business person up out of Quebec. I met him about 7 years ago at Social Media Marketing World. Very first time I was on stage doing a business of story training there, and I've been back 7 times now.
Cool.
He came up to me after the session in the corridor. Very handsome, French-speaking, Quebecois, I don't even know if I said that right, Canadian, with broken English. And he was just, Park, I loved the business of story, what you're doing with story. Would you help me brand my used car lot in Quebec? And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know, really? A used car lot? I don't think so. And then he went on to tell me, and we really specialize in people that are credit stricken, people that have defaulted, they've in bankruptcy, they're trying to get back on their feet. And all I could think of is, oh my God, used cars to at-risk buyers are so full of sharks. Is this another one? So he says, I'm going to call you in about 3 weeks. And I was kind of hoping he wasn't going to call. And he did. And we chatted for a while. And the more I understood his story, so here I am coming from my perspective as he's, trying to get me to work, helping with his brand story. My whole perception was car shark, used car market, at-risk buyers, don't want any part of that. I don't see a purpose-driven brand there in any way, shape, or form. Until I finally put my guard down, stopped judging the book by its cover, and Andre told me the story. He goes, actually, all we are is a car dealership that enables Canadians to repair their credit. I'm just using the industry as a vehicle so that we can help them repair their credit. And I go, well, how's that work? He said, well, these are people that were caught up in the world, recession back in the late 2000s. Maybe they lost everything because of health concerns or health challenges. Maybe they got a divorce. And anyways, these are good people who fell on bad times. And all I want to do is help them get back on their feet. And I want to make sure that we put them in a car that they can actually afford, because if they make that payment every month for 2 years, their credit scores go way up, and then every part of their life gets better. So, and he says, and think about it from a business perspective. If I can guarantee that they're going to pay that bill, I'm going to get a better rate from the bank that's loaning me the money. And we're already making good margins anyways because they're an at-risk buyer. So here's the most beautiful thing about this, Connie, is he said when they come in to buy a car, the company's called Prêt Auto Parte, which is French-ish for ready, car, go. He puts them first through to a 2 to 3 hour financial planning session. A lot of them don't even know that that's going to happen. He said, I won't sell you a car until you do this with us. They understand their income, their family household, what are the finances, where are they going, and what cars can I put them in? So that guy might be coming in for that 2018 Charger, but he's going to leave with a little Prius because that's what he can actually afford. And then they follow up every month for the first 3 or 4 months with the financial planning person that says, how you doing? Are you making ends meet? How's it going here? Can I help in any way, shape, or form? So much so, he doesn't even hire car salespeople. He hires financial planners to go out and make sure that they get in the right car. They have grown by over 400%. They are the fastest growing car dealership in Quebec, and they are franchising the whole opportunity now throughout North America, all because of their purpose-driven story. In fact, it came down, I did help them with their brand story, and it came down to the tagline of Prêt Auto Parte, your vehicle to financial freedom. And that's, so there's an example of me having one story in my head, which became his reality until I shut up and listened long enough to understand what his actual story was. But that's why he was hiring us in the first place, is to help him tell that story. He didn't know how to tell it. And then once I was on board, we got that story together, and the rest is history. I just want to share that with you because it's so relevant to your world and what we're talking about today.
It's a great story. And here's the thing. He's not selling just for the money. Yeah, he's making good money, right? He's franchising, all those things. His business model was sound and scalable, which was smart. But at the core, he was heart-centered. He really wanted to help these people. And you know what? They ended up being able probably to afford more things, improve your credit rating, right? Although maybe they could get a cheaper mortgage if they were buying a home, whatever it is. Plus, he was making money. Plus, he was educating them on the financial piece of it that has a ripple effect beyond just improving their credit rating. Think about those lifelong lessons of how we help them now prepare for their retirement, for their kids' educations, whatever it might be. So what a heart-centered, beautiful story. I think everybody has to sell from that perspective. It's okay to make money if you do it, I believe, the right way. We can make a lot of money and do a lot of good in the world, but you really have to be heart-centered and do the right thing at the core. And that's a beautiful story. One other thing, I'm going to make you laugh. I think I just published this book, which if nobody could see on video, but it's called Ready, Connect, Grow. That was just weird that yours was Ready, Credit, Grow. Mine
Ready, Cargo. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that is what is that book about?
Networking and business development. I brought together 19 other authors plus myself. So it's I believe that my way, your way might not always resonate with people. Like they like one piece of what I said and one piece of what you said. And I'm okay with that, right? We're not cookie cutter. But if they could take that really good piece of advice from you and from me and from Joe Schmo, and they can make it theirs, now it's their authentic self that's comfortable, all of a sudden they're creating magic out there. So the 19 other authors, the core was how and why is networking and how and why is networking so important, and how can we translate that into career and business growth? And everybody came with their own stories, and it's beautiful because my hope is as people read it that they take a piece from everybody, implement it into their real world, and hopefully at the end the trajectory is more success, whether it be business or career. So yeah, it was just funny that it was kind of the same acronym.
Well, we could do a whole show, and we probably should, Connie, on networking because it's so important. Yeah. Our son, Cade, who produces this show. Hi, Cade. He's listening to it right now as he's editing it all together. He's up in Las Vegas, and he does some amazing work up there, audio studios. He works at the Copa Room. Which is this really cool, kind of a throwback loungy area that people come in and pack out and have dinner and drinks and they, watch shows and that kind of thing. And I always tell him too, like his older brother Parker and sister Corbin, it's all about the people in your life. It's the network. And when you're networking with high quality individuals, it levels you way up, right? If we find ourselves connecting or networking or even attracting clients that aren't that level of, relationship you're looking for, it will really drag you down. And I've got you might crack up at this, Connie, I've got my filter is the rigid and frigid filter. So when I get, connected to with, come and do some work, I immediately put them through the rigid and frigid filter. The rigid or the frigid filter, number one is this person likable? Or is it going to be just really hard to make this work? Where Andre Martin Hobbs was extraordinarily likable. The frigid filter then is, they're coming, they want something, but are they really willing to change? Or are they so locked in their way, it's all just lovely words and they're not going to change? So I put my network through the rigid and frigid filter, whether I'm working with them or whether I'm, just bringing more colleagues and more professionals into my world. Do you have a filter like that?
It's funny. I do. And if, so I'm going to try to be polite. If people.
Wait a minute, you're a Jersey gal. You don't have to. Just let her roll.
I want to make sure I say this correctly because I want the message to be received properly. People approach me and it's like, what have you got for me? Tell me what to do. And they're not going to follow through, right? It's this very superficial engagement. They don't exist in my world. And people have said to me, so-and-so. And I'm like, wow, I know the name. Why can't I picture them? And then next time you're at an event, they go, that's Park. And I'll look over and I go, oh, yeah, I remember him. Oh, yeah, we had a conversation. They go, yeah. And I go, it doesn't exist in my world. They go, why? And I go, superficial. I have no time for superficial, right? If you want to get to know me and I want to get to know you and you want to create magic, or I certainly can help you, I am willing to extend myself. But you have to be able to execute on the back end. So yeah, I have a filter. If it's superficial, they're not my people.
That could be the super and official. They got to be super people and officially in this, and they're going to do their thing. Versus superficial the other way.
Real quick about networking too, just for everybody listening. Great example. I have a friend here in the East Coast. She's in New Hampshire. I'm in Jersey, and her son just graduated college. He's in Salt Lake City. And so we were talking one day and she said, he's graduating. And I'm like, tell him to look at my LinkedIn. You never know who I know, where. I know the kid, use me. He's a good boy. And I know he'll work hard because the mother will kill him if he didn't. But anyway, so I said to her, yeah, let me know. Send me his resume. So fast forward, he's staying in Salt Lake City. So I saw her a couple of weeks ago and I said, oh, I have somebody to connect him with. She's like, you do? I'm like, super nice guy. So I did an intro email. He's a peer. He's maybe 10 years younger than me. He's going to have lunch with this kid. So you see, when you have the right people in your network, we get it, man. We want to help each other. But somebody in Salt Lake City that's like at the executive level that can help my son? Yeah, I do. But you got to ask. You got to ask people, hey, what do you think? Can you help me? And again, I know the kid. He's a good kid. I'm happy to extend myself. But yeah, true story.
Yeah. Is networking another blind spot in your sales storytelling?
I think it is because, people go to networking events and they want to collect cards, or they go to networking event with their peeps, right? The other people in their organization or their friends and colleagues. And then they stay together instead of branching out and saying, okay, I'm going to talk to 2 new people. You talk to 2 new people. And then let's see how we could connect. Maybe we do a group lunch, or maybe we do something together, a video together. I don't know, but they go with the intent of either getting as many business cards as they can, or they stick with the people they know. You got to go in with an attitude of, who do I want to meet? And the other thing I always recommend with networking, Park, is sometimes you're not able to do this, but always ask the person who's running the event, do they have a list of all the attendees or the people who are attending? And then what I do is I kind of review that and I see who I want to meet. If that's an organization I want to get an introduction to, or is there someone that I've been looking for that we've been missing each other? Now, I don't go in and go, oh, I've been looking for you. I think we should do business together. I go in, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm excited to finally meet you, right? Have a very, not a superficial, but a deeper conversation to try to get to know them. better. And I ask for that introduction from the person who's hosting the event. So you go in with a little bit more authority. And my objective is usually to walk away having 3 really good conversations that you can then follow up with a coffee or whatever it might be after the fact. So I think we go in with a predetermined, the old way of networking, and I think we have to humanize it.
Yeah, humanize it. And like you said, that 70-30 rule comes in really well there as you're having a cocktail or eating the little hot dog weenies or whatever. Listen, open up your ears and let them talk. Was it Dale Carnegie that says in his book, When Friends and Influence People, he says, it's amazing when you sit there at a party and you say nothing and let that person go on and on and on. Later on, they'll comment to their friend, what a great conversationalist Connie was. Even though you never opened your mouth because they did all the talking. They just want to be heard, like you said.
Absolutely.
One thing.
Can I share one more scary story?
Absolutely. Yep.
So my husband had an event, a networking event, not networking, a business event. And so I have several friends. It was in Florida. And I have colleagues in Florida I had never met. So I thought, I'm going to pay the airfare. I'm coming and I'm going to connect with these people and we'll do a little more networking, brainstorming, whatever. And so I did. I reached out and I met with these people. This one young man who was at the event that my husband was at, the business event. And at night, his boss, my husband's boss, took a bunch of us out to dinner, all the people on the team. And this young man joined us. The entire time he talked about him. He was maybe 23, 24 years old, talked about himself, talked about his college, talked about his frat buddies, talked about him. And we got in the car to Uber back to the hotel. And one of the other gentlemen who's a little bit older than myself, I said to them, guys, did I miss something? And they said, what? And I said, he talked at us. He didn't ask. He had 200 years worth of experience in the financial service industry, in sales specifically. He was a financial advisor, and he didn't ask us one question. So they laughed, and I said, if that were one of my sons, I would have punched him in the face. So the men both start laughing, saying, yes, from the mom, right? So if anybody's listening and you're in the younger generation, if you have people who've been there, done that, and they're ahead of you in their career, ask questions, man. And Park, I know myself, if a younger person says, Con, I'm really curious, I'm at a crossroads, I don't know what to do, can you help me? I will help them as much as I can because we've all been at those crossroads and so uncertain of what to do. If you can guide someone through a conversation, why wouldn't you? Don't you feel the same way?
Oh, absolutely. And, I think too, because I remember early in my career too, it's like, oh, I don't want to ask that person. They're so accomplished. They don't want to hear from me. I don't want to waste their time. I'm not worthy is what goes on between people's ears. And yet, look, you and I have been doing this an awful long time. We love it when someone reaches out and said, Park, I need some help, or I'm trying to make a career decision here, or do you know anybody here that might do this? I mean, it's an honor to help people that way. And I think I speak for the vast majority of people, unless, of course, you're coming across one of those real frigid people,
yes,
then they're not going to help you at all. But they're the minority. They are the 1%ers out there that don't want to help you. 99% of the professionals that have all kinds of experience love it when youth ask them, do you have any advice? I mean, you're doing them a big favor by asking for a favor in return. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Got to be curious in life, I think. That's how you get ahead. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. Again, see, no superficial conversations for me. You have to be curious about the other person you're speaking with.
Yeah. When I was a very, 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 very young man, just starting out in the advertising world as a writer, I was trying to find my way in Phoenix, Arizona in the ad industry out here. And I was working for a little tiny agency and I was doing a little tiny work as a writer. Nothing, I was like, God, really? Is this it? Where do I go from here? And I reached out to the CEO of the largest agency in town. His name was Win Holden. He ran Phillips Ramsey back in the day. And this was this was before email, right? I had to make a phone call. Absolutely. And got a secretary and said, explained who I was, young dude just trying out. Would Win be open for me to come in where I could just ask him about the industry and any career advice that he might have? And I was so nervous making that call. And then I thought, well, who cares? He's just going to blow me off. He won't take that meeting. Well, a week later, here I am sitting in Win Holden's office at Phillips Ramsey, 5 PM. They're wrapping up work, and he spent an hour with me.
Wow.
And he was a father figure for me. And here he was genuinely interested in me and what I wanted to do in my career and gave me terrific advice. And I wasn't the only person he did that with. Win Holden got a phenomenal reputation around Arizona for being that guy that would help anybody. All you had to do is raise your hand and ask.
There's enough time in a day to help people, right? I think that's what we're all here for, to raise each other up. That's beautiful. Wow, that's beautiful. And now fast forward, we're in the position that he was in, and we're saying the same thing. We open that door and welcome it, because we didn't get here on our own either, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
None of us do.
No.
We all have those sidekicks, right?
Yeah.
Those Obi-Wan Kenobis, the Glended Good Witch of the North that helps us get through. I want to go back to Andre in this, because I think it's an interesting example of this. So here he was doing this great work, right, with this used car dealership at Quebec, and he's helping these Canadians with their finances. But the other thing he told me is that several years later, he invented this platform called Lucy, which is all AI driven, that enables someone who has really horrible credit, that subprime buyer, to be able to put in their stuff into the information there at Prate Auto Pate, and have within 30 seconds, not only approval, but who would then finance them. So it goes beyond just approving, but then, here are 3 different lenders that will actually help you buy this car. And the reason why he did that is he said, Park, we were helping them. They were coming in with their tails dragging between their legs, right? And they had this moniker of subprime buyer. I mean, nothing is more pounding on your ego than being subprime. And so I said to Andre, well, if that's their perspective and you want to help them out, you're helping them out financially, to be able to do that, let's help them out mentally. And say at Prate Auto Pate, you are no longer a subprime buyer, you are a pre-prime buyer. Because our job is to get you into that vehicle, to repair your credit, to get you back up to that prime ranking. And if you do what we tell you to do over the course of 2 years, you will get back to that prime ranking. And it was just, again, listening to the stories that your prospects were telling themselves, and even about you, as I'm a subprime loser. No, you're not. You are a pre-prime optimistic buyer. Let's do this together. I thought that was a really cool move on his part.
See, again, that heart-centered approach of because where do all the stories start? Between our ears, whether it's real or not, right? Their beliefs from when we were kids and from our ancestors and all that. We all know this, right? That whole quantum physics thing, right? It's real. We know it's real now. It's proven. But what goes on between our ears, we have to really tap into that and see, is it the truth? Or is it something that's holding me back? And really, whatever that thing was that was protecting us perhaps as kids, is it still serving us as adults? And usually when we start to dig in a little bit, you find that it's not serving me now. But you have to be, again, present. It goes back to being present and mindful, right? That what's happening, is it serving me? Yes or no? And if it's not, now you have a choice. If it is, keep doing it. Keep rocking it.
Connie, how many books have you written as a best-selling author on sales?
Four. Yeah, 4 international bestsellers, yeah.
So that's hard to do. And in order to pull that off, I know I've got 2 and they're not international bestsellers, but we'll get there. You have to really know your line of work, which you do. What in all 4 of those books, and this idea again around blind spots, is there a theme that you see that keeps reoccurring in your work that you are trying to get through to the people, to your readers, to those sales professionals, to anybody out there, because we're all in sales, relative to that blind spot or blind spots that we could fix so that we could see more sales?
Yeah, there's many, but the 2 biggest that I see, the beginning of the sales process and the very end of the sales process. And when I say sales process, for me, it's the whole communication process from start to finish. So the beginning of it is being prepared, obviously knowing your products, but doing some recon on the person you're meeting if you can, right? Look on the websites, all those things. Look on their LinkedIn page. Park, when we started, I had to go into buildings, go up to the kiosk. The first floor was Dr. So-and-so. Well, like my business used to be Whitman and Associates before I changed it to changing the sales game. Well, you walk in, Whitman and Associates, that didn't tell what I did. So you'd write them down, then I would go to the library, I would look them up with the address, go to the library. We had to use the Dewey Decimal System, all of those things. And then we do the research. Well, now it's simple because we have the websites and we have LinkedIn. So you can see, are people active charitably? Are they the same charitable organizations that resonates with you, right? Where's those common grounds? So that preparation, I think I see too many salespeople, or the people I work with are predominantly salespeople or sales teams. They're not prepared. They're winging it. Like, I'm just going to go shoot from the hip. Trust me, you get lucky once in a while, but you can't do that as a regular course of diet. It's going to shoot yourself in the foot, and you're not going to grow, stagnate. Your skills are going to grow, all those things. The end of the sales process, where I see just so many people, they don't follow up. And I could give you a perfect example. New client going in, corporate client, going to teach them a whole bunch of things. One of them is business development. So after I spoke at a kickoff meeting, I had 30 minutes to do my thing, right? Whatever I talked about. And one of the employees, business development officer, reached out to me and said, what book can I read about business development? So I was like, I don't know. So I emailed her back and I said, I don't even know what to recommend. Can we jump on like a 20-minute Zoom call? I have questions. I can't answer unless you answer my questions. Net, we get on the call 20 minutes later. The first question I asked her, she said they're breaking into new markets and they had done all these meet and greets and no business came from it. And I said, oh, that's weird. I said, well, what did your follow-up look like? First question. She just looked at me on the Zoom camera and I said, you didn't follow up? She goes, no. I said, how many events? 10. I said, oh, she goes, well, what do I do now? I said, I would go back and look at the list. Who did you talk to? And I gave her some recommendations. At the end of the 20 minutes, she had written 5 pages of notes. So I said, so I don't think you need a book. I think you need to do some of the action steps I gave. She goes, I'm on it. As soon as we hang up, I'm going to do this. So she's my people, right? She asked the right question. She listened to my solution. She took the notes. We were hanging up and she was going to execute. I'll do anything for her. Her name was Karen. I said, I'll do anything for you, Karen. So, but you see, that's another piece of the puzzle. And unfortunately, because of all the noise in the marketplace between Facebook and LinkedIn, and just there's noise everywhere with marketing and books out there, all these things, we forget to follow up. Humans need to hear a message. It's like 15 to 18 times before they'll actually go, I was thinking, Park, I think I need help with my story. Can you do that? Meanwhile, you've talked to me 15 times about how story can help, but I'm so preoccupied in my own world with my own stuff, right? Whatever that is, family, work, etc. I didn't hear your message because I wasn't ready to really listen and receive. So 15 to 18 times, and that could be an email, a text message, a video that you did, a podcast you were on. It's not like you have to call someone 18 times. They have to hear from you that many times to cut through the noise and say, oh, this is the person I've been looking for. You have to build that know, like, trust factor. For me, I think everybody uses that phraseology. You got to get deep with people quickly. And the only way to do that, be prepared and make sure you're following up.
Yeah. And that follow-up is so difficult. And I have a hard time with it too when I'm out there. I will follow up with that email, but then, it'll go 3 weeks sometimes without someone responding back to it. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, you're the one that called in the first place that got this whole ball going. And then I think we all get that feeling of, well, I don't want to hit them too many times because then I'm going to become annoying.
Yes.
But it sounds like what you're saying here is don't worry about being annoying. Just keep hitting them until they say stop.
Yeah, don't keep calling them every other day or every other day. Do you read my email? Do you read my email? To me, that's just so obnoxious. But what I'll do is I'll send them a podcast. Gosh, this was based on our conversation. I thought this podcast was so relevant. It's my friend Park, but I think it'll really resonate with you. Enjoy. Hope to talk soon. It's a touch, right? It can be very gentle. And then what happens when a rule of thumb for me is through that period of time, I'll send 3 emails and maybe 3 voice messages. What I'll do then is send that final email, probably around the 11th, 12th time, and say, listen, I never make a pest of myself. I understand you're busy. So here's again my contact info. When you're ready, know I'm here and I can't wait for us to make some magic out in the world or something. So I just send a lovely email saying, I'm going to back off and not be a pest. 90% of the time, you know what happens? They respond, no, keep following up with me. You're reminding me. I just have these projects going. And that I respond, LOL, okay, as long as you're opening that door, because I don't want to be up. And then you have a little banter back and forth via the email. But again, it proves I care. It shows who I am. It's not superficial, all the things we've been talking about. And it's a gentle way of saying, now I'm going to back off now. And then they go, no, please keep reminding me. We're going to do something. Timing is just off. And then I will ask what's appropriate, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. And sometimes they'll say 10 days. Sometimes they'll say 3.5 weeks. And then I just put it in my calendar. You want to honor what they tell you, by the way. Make sure you execute what they're telling you to do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. At the top of the show, you talked about the 5 ways we communicate. I don't know what those are. What are those?
So there are different styles. And I don't know if you've had Myers-Briggs, you've taken Myers-Briggs or Predictive Index or DISC. And all of them.
I've done all of those.
All of them. Right, me too. All of the above. And, EINJ, after the fact in training, people go, yeah, I was an EINJ. And I giggle and I go, what does that mean? Oh, I don't remember. But it was me. And I go, oh, that's good. So to me, they're brilliant tools. But if the tool can't be used in execution when I'm live with other humans, right? That's who I function with. To me, it's faulty. So the 5, a colleague of mine that we came up with, number 1, it's positive imagery. So people, they're excited about learning their personality or their behavioral style. So 1 is a heartfelt advocate, exactly like it sounds. They lead with their heart. They love deeply. They feel deeply, and they truly want to be a partner that can provide solutions. So they lead with the heart and they advocate for others, heartfelt advocate. You're picturing people as I'm saying this. Next one is the stimulating motivator. You and I, my friends, are stimulating motivators. High energy. We want to be cheerleaders for people. We truly believe that as the tide rises, right? The boats rise together. We live and breathe that. That's our stimulating motivator. Next one is an innovative organizer. Innovation and organized enough to bring stuff to the market. That would be that CEO mentality. That's our second one, by the way, Park. We're both innovative organizers. So I love to stimulate and support and be the cheerleader, but you got to get stuff done, man. Are we pulling the trigger? What are we doing? Chop, chop. We got things to do. That's that innovator. You see how they both kind of play together? And then you have the precise assessor, which are like architects, engineers, very, very precise in assessing, analyzers of financial analytics, people on the back end. They're precise assessors. They love to look at detail, digest detail, and then whittle it down into digestible information. And then the last one is observing designers, and they love to observe and design. They are probably the smallest percentage, but there are innovators out there, creators, what do you call it? They bring new things to market.
Yeah, makers in the world.
Yeah,
they show
yeah.
up and they may be a little bit aloof sometimes. They're out there, but they're making stuff happen.
The absent-minded professor, brilliant, socially awkward, but they could do research like no other, and they'll see that one thing that needs to be changed, and they'll bring it to market. So you could see if you're building a team, you need everybody on your team because that blocks the blind spots, right? So for us, the stimulating motivator, innovative organizer, for example, sometimes we believe that we're right because my opinion is usually the right one, Park. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. So we think we're right that we forge forward and we don't listen to the heartfelt advocate or the precise assessor because they're moving too slow for us. We got things to do. Meanwhile, they have the answers we're looking for and they could save us time and money. But I leave a wake of disaster behind me because I'm not present and listening. So see, that's where the listening comes in too. But yeah, so they're potential blind spots. That all just makes sense. I know I kind of rattled that pretty quickly.
No, it's good. And I really like your descriptions. Did you come up with those?
Yeah.
To try to make sense out of all these darn personality testing things. I've been through virtually everyone, and I can't even tell you what my acronym is and or what it means, but I can really identify with the stories, the pictures that pop up in the theater of my mind when you now place that into the context of a story. Positive imagery, self-advocate, rah, 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 here we go. I mean, you can picture that person. That was Win Holden. He wasn't a big rah-rah guy, but he was there, that calm, here, I'm going to show you the way, son. And, and that as you were going through all of these, I was thinking of different people that popped up. Do you know in your world, Alice Hyman? She is the daughter of Stephen Hyman, Miller Hyman, the famous training suite, sales training. They're one of the first people to ever write a book about sales training back in the 70s. Anyways, Alice is a very, very good friend of mine. And she would make actually an absolutely wonderful guest on your podcast. And I'd be happy to make that introduction.
Oh, I love that.
She's helped me so much with my sales and just getting my act together of doing the most basic things that I never thought about doing before.
Blind spot.
But, when you're talking about that stimulating motivator, she's right there. That she was the next person that popped into mind. But going down through all of those, I loved it. So I would imagine if you, say you're not hiring, but say you are going in and you've done your research on that prospect sitting across from you, and hopefully somewhere in there you have gotten an inkling of where they fall on this character continuum, if you will, and you are going to position your story from their perspective, right? So if it is that positive imagery self-advocate, then you may well start off your storytelling developing their own positive images in their heads about what you can do for them. If it's that if it's the precise assessor, then maybe you don't want to leave with that positive imagery stuff. You want to maybe end with that so that they can picture where they're going. But in the beginning, you've got to talk about maybe kind of the nuts and bolts, the precision that is going to happen if you worked with them, and then picture what that outcome could be. So I imagine it really colors how you tell your stories depending on who that person is sitting across from you.
My work here is done. That's exactly, you nailed it. And think about this though. So my lowest, and when on my grid, my continuum, if you will, there's scores, right? So like my stimulating motivator and innovative organizer on a scale of 50 to -50, I'm like a 50 and a 38, high intensity. My precise assessor is like a -40. So I am not detail driven. I hire people to edit for me. Before I send an important email, I'll run it through people because you don't want to have mud on your face. So I understand what my blind spots are, and I surround myself with people who could protect me against myself in some instances. But the thing is, if I'm talking to an engineering firm, I have one client who's an architect, and it's funny because as soon as we get on a call, it takes work, by the way. I can't coach 2 architects in a day, not because they're not lovely people, because I'd be exhausted because I have to think so much, but I need to give them stories. I need to give them examples. I need to show them analytics. I need to give them images in real time, not just through my description. So it's very different than if I'm speaking with you. I go, the concept, blah, 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 and you're like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. We're there in 5 minutes. We're making the solution. With an architect, I have to slow my breathing. I need to get in tune with their energy level. And I need to, when they speak, right? Like if I ask you a question, we're firing back at each other. Architect, I have to breathe, not ask him another question, give him a second, and he'll go, so I was thinking, and I'm thinking, oh my God, spit it out. But that's how he's wired. So if I show up as me, rapid fire, I'm not going to get the sale. He's not going to connect with me, and he's going to think I'm a wackadoo versus me really, really being the one to help him because I am heart-centered and all those things, and he needed help with the sales. By the end, he was a rock star, but he didn't change him. He's still an observing designer and precise assessor. So it's not changing you. It's understanding the person on the other side of you, and then you flexing what now it becomes a strength because you see the blind spot. And the other thing with this model is once you get really good at it, 30 seconds, you can tell who that person is, whether they're a heartfelt advocate or et cetera. And then you'll be primed through your, experience in playing with this tool that you shift very easily. So I get like when I'm talking to an architect or an engineer, I don't even think about it anymore. I just slow myself down. I give them analytics. I give them 20 examples, and then they still ask me 5 more, but you're primed and ready for that. So I think that's the biggest usage is you understand it. It makes sense. You can digest it easily. And now you can use it in real life with other humans to execute and build those deeper conversations faster.
So we're really opening our eyes up, to borrow the blind spot pun here, of who that person is, what sort of character they are sitting across from us, so we know how to communicate or how to storytell with them. Do you have a system that people use that you have perfected? That can they get that online, or is it through your books, or where could we send them to understand more about clearing up this primary blind spot?
Yeah, so obviously I have a book. It's called Easy Sales Process. And through the entire thing, the first introduction is the CSA, the Communication Style Assessment. And then I pull that through everything we do, because our style also inhibits us from following up. Our style can inhibit us from people like us sometimes are disorganized because they're on to the next thing instead of, wait a minute, did you finish this? So we have blind spots throughout, and our CSA reflects each of those 7 steps. So my book, which is an inexpensive way to learn, and of course they can go to my website, which is changingthesalesgame.com. I have everything there. My books are there, resources, my podcasts, my program, everything's there if they need it. And of course they can reach out to me and ask questions from changingthesalesgame.com as well.
Well, that was awesome. And I knew this conversation was the perfect one to start my Monday morning at 9 a.m. here in Northern Arizona. Connie, thank you so much for being here. It's fun to speak with another stimulating motivator, innovator, work CEO, blah, blah, blah. We were going. I wonder how many people went, oh my God, I can't take this energy anymore.
Well, I love them all. Thank you for having me, Park. I love spending time with you. I hope everybody resonates with the content and uses one little tip that we shared. Put it into action, see what happens. Magic.
You got to understand the magic if you're going to cast a spell. Isn't that right?
You got it. Love you, my friend.
Thank you, Connie. And thank you all for watching, listening to this edition of The Business of Story. Check out her book. I really love this idea of those 5 different character traits, because if you understand your audience in a godlike way, then you know how to communicate and how to storytell with them. So check it out. I'll have, of course, all the links in the show notes and so forth. If I can be of service to you, come on over to the Business of Story. If you have not yet taken the ABTs of Agile Communications mini online course, take it now. Visit it over at businessofstory.com/ABT. It is rocking thousands of worlds out there now. I've been sharing it all over the place. I've had all kinds of speaking gigs and just came back from Whistler, Canada, where I shared it with the Ace Tech leadership group up there. And I've been getting overrun with emails about, whoa, where has this little thing been my whole life? I mean, the ABT, I wish I had learned about it in the 3rd grade. Check it out, businessofstory.com/ABT. And of course, I want you back here right next week at this same time, when we will have another amazing story artist right here, just like Connie. And by the way, if you liked what you heard, share this show with your friends, families, and colleagues. But be back again next Monday. And until then, remember that the most potent story you will ever tell is the story you tell yourself. So make sure that one's epic. Thanks so much for listening. Take care.